And right now, unemployment is approaching 10%. Continuing jobless claims are at an all-time record high. This as the nation's retailers face dropping sales numbers released today. Sales numbers that show frugal and worried consumers. Rough times indeed for millions of Americans. New Jersey Democratic Governor Jon Corzine, who is a former top Wall Street investment banker, joins us now. You know the economy as well as anyone. You know what's going on in your state. Is there a sense that the G8 and the president and the international leaders over there are pretty much irrelevant in the kind of namby-pamby statements that are released at these summits, given what is happening here, the nitty-gritty of what's happening here at home? Well,
first of all, they're not irrelevant. Macroeconomic policy is still an important ingredient in the direction of the economy. It cannot set the terms and conditions of what's happening. We had a big ship heading in the wrong direction, and it's going to take a while to turn it around. Thank goodness we had the stimulus program that the Congress and the President put forward earlier in the year. We would 10% would look very small relative to where I think unemployment would be. That said, we have changing psychology on our consumers who are saving more and spending less, and that creates less demand. That's one of the reasons that you needed this program of the federal government putting some demand into the economy while the private sector stepped back. I think that was the important step. Now we have to see it work, along with all the other initiatives that have come from the Federal Reserve and central banks across the country, across the globe. I think that while there are tough days ahead, particularly in the employment markets, I think we have laid a foundation in which growth will slowly come back. I think we've begun to see that, and while I don't like where we are, I know my constituents don't like where we are, we believe that we're starting to see the early signs of movement positive. We saw that even a little bit in today's employment claims.
Let me ask you, those numbers, though, those weekly claims numbers do bounce around. They're a little bit hard to track. But let me ask you about the stimulus package. They're bouncing around
at a lower level, though, Andrea.
Well, that is a good thing. Okay, I take your point. The stimulus package, $29 billion, has already been fed out of the more than $700 billion, according to the GAO report that was released this week. Is that good enough? Is your state getting enough at the state and local level?
Well, what has actually happened early on in the stimulus program is that there has been tax cuts for middle-income families. The Make Work Pay program that the president put forward is there. The knowledge that the alternative minimum tax is not going to hit middle-class taxpayers is in the mind of people who would otherwise have had higher taxes. And there has been significant support for state budgets to maintain education and our health care programs that are in place, and that's across the country. There would have been a huge amount of job loss. The president has always said that his program was intended to save and create jobs. It takes longer to get the dollars out with regard to construction on highways and bridges and tunnels and the kinds of things that we're doing with our healthcare system with the electronic records. That money is into the system, but it will take longer to work out. We've saved a lot of jobs. We're beginning to see some of those dollars flow into the construction area that I think will bridge the gap while the private sector recovers, the psychology of the consumer recovers, and we get the economy turned around. But that's going to take a while.
In fact, there are some numbers saying that only 11% has actually gotten to the states, as my colleague Lisa Myers reported on Nightly News last night. But I wanted to ask you
about the political... But, you have to understand that our budgets had to be put together, and we were either going to cut or we were going to have those resources available for next year's spending, and that has been put in place.
Let me ask you about your own race, because you're going to be one of the first tests of how people feel about the Democrats in this economic downturn, since you and Virginia, your state and Virginia, are the only two states with governor's races this year you're challenged.
No question.
According to the Fairleigh Dickinson poll, according to the Quinnipiac poll, you're behind in the head-to-head races against your Republican opponent, Christopher
Well, I'm going to
Christie.
say the pro forma. The only poll that counts is actually the election, and so those things have bounced around. They actually bouncing slightly better in recent weeks. But the reality is that the public is having a very challenging time, whether it's in New Jersey, whether it's in California, whether it's in New Mexico, or it's Colorado. We have a national recession. We have a global recession. The public understands that President Obama and the Democratic policies are not how we got into this mess. And the fact is that we need help at the federal level for a lot of states, Republican or Democratic states, and we'll be making that argument as we go through the summer and fall. I think we have programs in place that are actually making a difference in the state, and I know we have a partner in the White House.
Your partner in the White House is going to be campaigning for you next week. First of all, what do you think the impact would be if Sarah Palin campaigns, as she said she's going to, for candidates this year, so presumably she'll come to New Jersey for Christopher Christie? Do you think that she would have some appeal in New Jersey?
Well, I have heard my opponent say he wasn't actually looking forward to her coming to New Jersey, so I don't know that it would have a major impact. I think President Obama's partnership with the state of New Jersey, which is different than what we had when we had a Republican in the White House, will make a difference in how people feel we can resolve the economic trauma that our state and our nation are going through. This recession started in the fall of 2007, Andrea, not under Barack Obama's watch. Many of us across the country have been struggling with that recession because of failed economic policies. I think the public is wise enough to understand where the problem came from, and it certainly wasn't a New Jersey problem, and they have to struggle with it. We want to work with our partner in the White House to make changes that will help us get out of it, get people back to work, make sure investments going forward and consumers are back in the marketplace. And I think a lot of those conditions are going on in Washington, and we're supporting them with our policies in New Jersey.
John Corzine on the line in New Jersey. We're going to watch your campaign closely, obviously. We hope you come back. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Andrea.